And so it indeed begins. Hey Shrish, and welcome to Magnifloss, the channel where two friends talk about anything and everything, whatever is on our minds at this current point in time. Shrish, I really liked your video from last week about limitation, and it made me think of two particular things. Number one, it took me back to 9th grade when I was in government class, and my teacher made sure that each and every one of us had this particular quote engraved into our minds by the time we finished her course. To be free, one must be chained. As you rightly said, in every single medium there has to be some sort of limitation, some sort of constraints, even in math. Yes, I always figure out some way to talk about math and everything, okay? But in particular, the idea of limitations made me think about mathematics in relationship to another discipline, the discipline of creative writing. From the get-go, it seems like these two are very different fields, right? One of them typically makes students bang their heads against their desks a little bit more than the other. I wonder which one it could possibly be. The problem, I think, with how math is presented in the high school curriculum, well, there's a lot of them. But the primary thing is, I think it's presented as something that is done to you, not something that you can use to express your own ideas or come up with your own problems that are really interesting to you. Moreover, what I think a mathematics education in high school and middle school really lacks is the human element. In your history and writing classes, students are heavily encouraged to express their opinions, to critique each other's opinions, to discuss and engage in healthy debate. But for some reason, math is left out in this. And you might be saying, well, what is really there to discuss in math, right? I mean, there's the right answer, that x equals 15, and then there's the wrong answer, which is x equals syntax error. Virtually everything is central to discussion in math. Similarly to how I think English classes are more polarized towards the literary critique aspect, I think math classes are really polarized towards the how can we introduce more and more solve for this, calculate that, here's the Pythagorean theorem, now here's 50 different problems where you just plug in different numbers into the formula to get out different numbers. Instead of being how can we get our students to engage with something interesting that they wouldn't usually really think about, it's become the sort of how can we get our students using more and more fancy symbols and notation so that the things that they're writing on the sheet of paper are more complicated looking than the things that they did a year ago. It's just become this endless ladder of courses that for some reason leads you to calculus? Why? Why? Because math class should be fun and an elective after you learn your basic arithmetic like addition, subtraction, percents and ratios and dividing. Right about till the point where Bob starts walking in a quadratic path to get to the store. There are so many things in math to explore, even at the elementary level, other than this little calculus funnel of despair that the curriculum forces everyone into for some reason. And I'll show you some cool stuff as time goes, we'll see. Now there's nothing wrong with derivatives and integrals. In fact, they're absolutely fantastic and mind-blowing concepts in their own right. However, the curriculum simply just sees them as just more fancy symbols that you can test students on their calculation abilities. Calculus is all about infinity, and it's a really tough concept to grasp if you really think about it. And if you really think about why the slope of a function has anything to do with the area under one, this is something really beautiful all the calculus courses just skip, maybe tuck away into the alphabet soup that they usually love to do. Which certainly does have a place, but not in the classroom of students that are seeing something like this for the first time, that are used to math just being the subject where you just solve for something. First, you get them to think, and once they're thinking, that's when you maybe start pushing them in the right direction and you start formalizing everything. But the period in time where the students just start to ponder the problems that these mathematicians were battling with, and most of the times the people that came up with this stuff weren't even strictly mathematicians. They came from physics, philosophy, biology, economics, or even art. These mathematical ideas were interesting to somebody for some reason, and conveying that story, I think, is more important than construing these fictitious scenarios where Robin's basketball data somehow fits this parabolic curve, so find the x-intercept. Because that's where all the thinking really lies. That's where the problem-solving abilities really develop. That's how students learn how to communicate with each other. And that's how math becomes more human. Bro, I was gonna talk about creative writing. This just turned into a rant. Okay, next time. Or maybe like the next 3 videos. Because in the next video I want to talk about oatmeals. Trish, I'll see you next week.